I'm Stacy, 35, and I thought I'd seen it all with my family's favoritism until that night. At my parents' 36th anniversary dinner in a bustling Chicago restaurant, the clinking glasses and laughter faded when my dad stood up, his voice sharp. "We wish your sister was our only child," he said, his eyes locked on me. The room went silent. My sister smirked, her smug grin cutting deeper than the words. Everyone, cousins, aunts, uncles, stared. I felt the heat rise in my chest, but I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just burned inside knowing this was the final straw. For years, I'd poured my heart and money into their failing business, only to be their punching bag. That night, something snapped. I wasn't going to take it anymore. I walked out my heels, clicking on the hardwood floor, already planning my next move. 1 week later, their wish came true in a way they never expected, and their perfect little world started to unravel. Imagine it was you. How would you respond, and tell me your country so I can see just how far this story has reached? Growing up, I was always the afterthought. My parents, Philip and Carol, never let me forget it. When I was a kid, they'd beam at my sister Noreen, praising her straight A's, her debate team trophies, her perfect smile. Me, I was lucky if they noticed I was in the room. I still carry the sting of those years, like the time I won a math competition, and they forgot to show up too busy cheering Noreen at her recital. Noreen soaked it up, always ready, with a smug nod like she deserved every ounce of their love. It wasn't just words. Their favoritism shaped everything. Family dinners revolved around Noreen's stories, her latest promotion, her big plans. If I spoke, Mom would cut me off, saying, "Let's hear from your sister." Dad would nod, eyes fixed on her. I learned to stay quiet, swallowing the hurt. But it wasn't just at home. They'd parade Noreen at family gatherings while I trailed behind, invisible. Once at a cousin's wedding, they spent the whole night boasting about Noreen's new job at a retail chain, never mentioning I'd just landed a role as a financial manager. The real kicker, their business. My parents owned a small retail store in Chicago selling clothes and accessories. It was their pride and joy, but it was always on the brink. Bad decisions, late bills, you name it. I bylaid them out, not just once, but every month. $500 from my savings wired without fail, plus hours of free financial advice to keep the place afloat. I'd crunch numbers, negotiate with suppliers, even streamline their inventory system. Did they thank me? No. They'd call Noreen to gush about how her marketing ideas saved the day, even though her suggestions were vague at best. A new sign here, a discount there. My work, barely a nod. I wasn't naive. I knew they leaned on me because I was good with numbers, not because they cared. Every time I sent that $500, I'd grip my teeth thinking about the vacations I couldn't take, the apartment I couldn't upgrade. But I did it. Why duty? Family. That stubborn hope that one day they'd see me. I'd sit in my office late at night reviewing their books, catching errors that would have cost them thousands. Meanwhile, they'd be at Noreen's house fawning over her latest pitch for a store rebrand that never materialized. It wasn't just the money, it was the dismissal. Once I spent weeks fixing a tax issue for their store. The day I told them it was sorted, Mom said, "Oh, good. By the way, Noreen's planning a big sale next month." No thank you, no acknowledgement. Dad just grunted already, dialing Noreen to discuss her vision. I stood there, papers in hand, feeling like a ghost. Another time, I suggested a new accounting software to save them hours. They ignored it until Noreen mentioned the same idea months later. Suddenly, it was brilliant. Noreen wasn't innocent in this. She'd lean into their praise, tossing me a pitying look like I was some charity case. Once when I was 20, she joked at a family barbecue that I was lucky to be the backup kid. Mom laughed. Dad didn't correct her. That memory stuck a knife, twisting every time they put her on a pedestal. Yet, I kept helping month after month, wiring money, tweaking budgets, because I thought that's what family did. Looking back, I see it clearly. They used me, not just my money, but my skills, my time. I was their safety net, the one they relied on but never respected. Every check I sent, every late night call about their finances was me chasing their approval. But approval never came. They'd take my help, then turn around and sing Noreen's praises as if she was the one keeping their store alive. I'd lie awake staring at the ceiling, wondering why I kept trying. Duty, guilt, maybe a flicker of hope they'd change. That hope died the night of their anniversary. I'd spent years being their afterthought, but I wasn't going to stay that way. The restaurant buzzed with laughter until it didn't. I sat at the long table, surrounded by cousins, aunts, and uncles, all dressed up for my parents' 36th anniversary. The clinking of wine glasses and chatter filled the air, but the spotlight was on Noreen. A cousin leaned forward, grinning. "Noreen, I heard you're killing it in retail. Regional manager already." She nodded, her smile polished, basking in the praise. Another relative chimed in. "Your store's displays are amazing." "You've got a real gift." I shifted in my seat, picking at my pasta, used to this routine. Mom beamed, her voice loud. "She's always had a knack for business." Dad nodded. His chest puffed out like Noreen was their greatest achievement. I listened silent as the table showered her with compliments. Her latest promotion, her innovative marketing campaigns, her charm with customers. It went on and on. Nobody mentioned my work, not once. I'd been managing finances for years, saving companies from collapse. But here I was, invisible again. Still, I thought maybe, just maybe, I could contribute something tonight. I cleared my throat, waiting for a pause. "I've been looking at the family store's numbers," I said, keeping my tone steady. "You're losing money on overstock. If you adjust the inventory system and cut some suppliers, you could save thousands a year." I leaned forward, ready to explain the plan I'd spent weeks sketching out, a streamlined approach to boost their profits. The table went quiet, but not the good kind. Noreen raised an eyebrow, her lips curling into a smirk. "Inventory." "That's cute," she said, her voice dripping with condescension. "Stick to your spreadsheets. I've got actual ideas." A few cousins chuckled and my stomach twisted. Mom jumped in, her tone sharp. "Sweetie, let's not bore everyone with numbers. Noreen's already planning a big summer sale." Dad didn't even look at me, just sipped his wine and muttered, "Yeah, Noreen knows what she's doing." I felt the heat rise to my face, my hands gripping the napkin under the table. My idea, weeks of work dismissed in seconds like I was some intern pitching to the CEO. I tried again, forcing a smile. "It's not just numbers. I could renegotiate with vendors, get better terms. It would make a real difference." Noreen laughed outright this time, a short-cutting sound. "Vendors, please." "I've got that covered. Maybe focus on your own job." Her words landed like a slap and the table erupted in murmurs, some amused, some awkward. Mom waved a hand, dismissing me. "Let's talk about something fun." "Noreen, tell them about your new ad campaign." Dad nodded already, turning to her as if I hadn't spoken. I sat back, my throat tight, the familiar sting of being overlooked settling in. Then it happened. Dad stood raising his glass for a toast. His eyes swept the room, lingering on Noreen, then landing on me. His voice was clear, deliberate, to 30 years of love, family, and our pride and joy. "Honestly, we wish Noreen was our only child." The words hit like a punch, sucking the air out of the room. Fork stopped clinking. A cousin gasped. Noreen didn't flinch. She smirked, her eyes locked on mine, daring me to react. Mom didn't correct him. She just sipped her wine, her face calm like it was nothing. The silence stretched every pair of eyes on me, waiting for tears or an outburst. I didn't give them that. My heart pounded, but I kept my face steady, my jaw set. Inside, I was unraveling the years of being pushed aside, crashing down. I'd spent my life trying to earn their respect, pouring my skills into their failing store, only to be erased in front of everyone. Noreen's smirk was the final straw, a silent taunt that I'd never be enough. I pushed my chair back, the scrape loud in the quiet room. "Enjoy your night," I said, my voice low but firm. I grabbed my purse and walked out, my heels clicking against the hardwood, every step fueling a fire in my chest. Outside, the cool Chicago air hit my face, but it didn't calm the rage building inside. I'd spent years swallowing their dismissals, their favoritism, their utter disregard. No more. As I stood on the sidewalk, the city lights blurring through my anger, I made a decision. I wasn't just going to walk away. I was going to end this cycle of being their afterthought once and for all. That night, I sat alone in my apartment. The sting of Dad's words, "We wish Noreen was our only child," burned in my chest sharper than ever. Noreen's smirk, Mom's silent agreement, the table's stunned faces, they replayed in my mind. Each memory fueling a decision I'd been avoiding for years. I was done. Done being their afterthought, their bank account, their invisible fix-it person. I'd poured $500 a month into their failing store, spent countless hours balancing their books, negotiating with vendors, keeping their business alive. For what? To be laughed at, dismissed, erased in front of everyone. No more. I grabbed my phone, my hand steady, despite the anger pulsing through me. I opened our family group chat. Me, Dad, Mom, Noreen, and typed a message. "I'm done helpin'. G with the store, no more money, no more advice. Good luck." I hit send, my heart racing, knowing the chaos it would unleash. Within minutes, my phone lit up. Dad called first, leaving a voicemail I didn't bother to check. Mom followed with a text. "What's this about? Call me now." Noreen sent a single word, "Seriously." I stared at the screen, their words blurring together, and felt a strange calm. I wasn't going to answer. Not tonight, not ever. By morning, the calls multiplied. Dad left 3 more voicemails, his tone shifting from confusion to irritation. "We need to talk about this," he said, in one as if I owed him an explanation. Mom's emails flooded my inbox. Long, rambling messages about how the store was our family legacy and how I couldn't just abandon them. Noreen called twice, her voice sharp, demanding I stop overreacting. I let every call go to voicemail, every email sit unread. Their panic was palpable, even through the screen, but I felt no guilt. They'd relied on my money and expertise for years, never once thanking me, always praising Naren instead. Now they'd face the consequences. The store was a mess without me. I knew it would be. My $500 a month covered their late bills, kept suppliers from cutting them off. My advice hours spent analyzing their finances, streamlining their operations, had been the only thing keeping them afloat. Without it, they'd sink and fast. I didn't feel sorry for them. I felt free. For the first time, I wasn't chasing their approval, wasn't begging for a scrap of respect. I was taking back my power. And it felt good, but Noreen wasn't done. 2 days later, I got a notification, a new post on her Facebook page public for all our family and friends to see. "Some people think they're indispensable," she wrote, "but they're just jealous and petty, stirring drama to feel important." She didn't name me, but the message was clear. Comments poured in, cousins and mutual friends speculating, some even tagging me. Then came the private messages, acquaintances asking if I was okay, others hinting I'd been difficult at work. Noreen didn't stop there. She posted again, this time about my failed relationships, claiming I was too focused on my career to keep a boyfriend. Lies, all of it. But the damage was done. My phone buzzed with notifications. Each one a jab at my reputation, my job, my life. I scrolled through her posts, my jaw tight. Noreen had always been smug, but this was a new low. She was trying to paint me as the villain, the unstable one, to deflect from their crumbling store. I could have fired back, could have aired their dirty laundry, how they'd begged for my help, how Noreen's brilliant ideas never worked. But I didn't. Responding would mean playing her game, and I was done with that. I blocked her on Facebook, muted her number, and ignored the growing pile of emails from Mom and Dad. Their desperation was their problem now, not mine. The pressure didn't let up. Dad called from a different number, leaving a message that started soft but turned sharp. "You're hurting the family," he said, as if I was the one who'd humiliated them. Mom's next email was a guilt trip, claiming I was tearing us apart over a misunderstanding. Noreen sent a text, all caps, "You can't just walk away like this." I deleted it without replying. Their words didn't sway me. They only confirmed what I already knew. They didn't care about me. They cared about what I could do for them. The store, their image, their comfort. That's what mattered. I was just a means to an end. Each ignored call, each unread message felt like a small victory. I wasn't going to let them pull me back into their cycle of dismissal and dependence. Norin's posts kept coming vague jabs about ungrateful people or family betrayals. They stung, but not enough to break me. My colleagues started asking questions, nudged by her lies, but I brushed them off, focusing on my work. I was good at my job better than Noreen ever was at hers, and I wasn't going to let her smear drag me down. Sitting at my desk, I thought about the store, how it would crumble without my help. How they'd scramble to fix what I'd held together for years. I didn't feel pity. I felt resolve. They'd pushed me too far, and now they'd learn what it meant to lose me. I wasn't just walking away. I was setting the stage for their fall. And I wasn't done yet. A week later, I boarded a flight to Florida. The decision to visit my grandfather, Henry, wasn't impulsive. It was calculated. I'd spent days ignoring Dad's voicemails, Mom's guilt-tripping emails, and Noreen's vicious Facebook posts. Each one trying to pull me back into their web, but I wasn't going back. Not to their store, their drama, or their lies. I needed someone who'd listen, someone with the power to change things. Grandpa was that person. He'd always been fair, a quiet man who saw through facades, and I knew he'd hear me out. The flight from Chicago to Tampa was just over 2 hours, enough time to rehearse wah. I'd say. I landed in the humid Florida air, rented a car, and drove to Grandpa's small beachside house. He was waiting on the porch, his weathered face breaking into a smile as I pulled up. "You look like you've got something heavy to share," he said, his voice gruff but warm. I hugged him, the weight of the past week settling in my chest. We sat in his living room, the hum of an old fan in the background, and I let it all spill out. I started with the anniversary dinner. I told him how Dad stood up, glass in hand, and declared they wished Noreen was their only child, how her smirk cut deeper than his words. I explained the years of being sidelined, my ideas, ignored my contributions, dismissed all while they praised Noreen's half-baked plans. I laid out the money, $500 a month I'd spent for years, straight from my savings to keep their store afloat. I described the late nights spent fixing their tax issues, negotiating with suppliers, streamlining their operations, only to be met with silence or scorn. Then I got to Noreen's posts, the lies about my work, my relationship spreading like wildfire among family and friends. Grandpa listened, his face hardening with every word. His hands, rough from years of working construction, clenched into fists when I mentioned Dad's toast. They said that in front of everyone, he asked, his voice low, almost a growl. I nodded, pulling out my phone to show him Noreen's posts, screenshots I'd saved before blocking her. Some people think they're indispensable, one read, followed by comments from cousins who'd bought her narrative. Another post hinted I was unstable, dragging my career through the mud. Grandpa's eyes narrowed, his jaw tight. "That's not family," he said. "That's betrayal." He stood pacing the room, his anger palpable. Grandpa had built a small fortune in property land in Florida, a few rental homes, and his Duke was no secret in the family. He'd always planned to split it between his kids, including Dad with some for me and Noreen. But now he shook his head. "I've seen how they treat you," he said. "I thought it would get better, but this is unforgivable." He sat down, his voice steady but fierce. "I'm changing the will. They don't deserve a dime. I didn't push him. I didn't need to." Grandpa called his lawyer that afternoon, a brisk man in a suit who arrived within hours. I sat quietly as they discussed the changes. Grandpa was clear. Dad, Mom, and Noreen were out. The land, the properties, everything would go to me, with a portion donated to a local charity he'd supported for years. "You've earned it," he told me, his eyes soft but firm. "Not just for what you've done, but for who you are." I swallowed hard, the weight of his words sinking in. For the first time in years, I felt seen. Grandpa didn't stop there. He asked for details about the store's finances, how much I'd given, how they'd relied on me. When I explained the $500 a month and my unpaid consulting, he shook his head again. "They'll crash without you," he said, not with pity, but with certainty. "Let them." I nodded, knowing he was right. The store was already on shaky ground, and without my help, they'd face the tax penalties and supplier debts I'd been holding at bay. I flew back to Chicago the next day, my resolve stronger than ever. I didn't call Dad, Mom, or Noreen. I didn't check their emails or texts. The store wasn't my problem anymore. Let them deal with the audits, the overdue bills, the mess they'd ignored for years. I felt lighter, like I'd shed a weight I'd carried too long. Back in my apartment, I met up with my friend Kathleen, the one person who'd always had my back. We grabbed coffee at a small shop near my place, and I told her everything the dinner Norins posts my trip to Florida. Kathleen listened, her eyes wide but gentle. "You did the right thing," she said, stirring her latte. "They've been using you forever. It's time you put yourself first." Her words hit home. Simple but true, she didn't push me to forgive or fix things. She just got it. "Focus on you," she added, her voice firm. "Your career, your life, you're worth more than their drama." I nodded, grateful for her clarity, her support. Kathleen had her own life, a busy job, and marketing her own battles, but she'd always made time for me, no questions asked. As I left the coffee shop, I felt a shift. Grandpa's decision wasn't just about money or land. It was justice, a line drawn in the sand. I wasn't fighting for their approval anymore. I was building my own future, and they'd have to face theirs without me. Within a few months, their world fell apart. The family store, once propped up by my money and advice, crumbled under the weight of its own mismanagement. Without my $500 each month, the bills piled up and suppliers cut them off. A tax audit hit hard penalties for years of sloppy bookkeeping I'd warned them about. The fines were crippling tens of thousands they couldn't pay. Dad tried to negotiate, but his charm didn't. Work on IRS agents. Mom scrambled to sell inventory, but it was too late. The bank foreclosed and the store shut its doors for good. I heard about it from a cousin, not from them. I didn't call to check in. They'd made their choices. Noreen's big plans went down with the ship. She'd been pitching investors, boasting about turning the store into a chain, using her so-called retail expertise to sell the idea. But with the store gone, her pitch fell flat. Investors backed out, unwilling to touch a sinking business. Her reputation took a bigger hit when her Facebook posts backfired. A few relatives tired of her smug attacks started digging. They found out I'd been the one keeping the store alive. My money, my work, not her brilliant ideas. A cousin posted a screenshot of my bank transfers, proof of the $500 I'd sent monthly. The comments turned fast. "You lied about her," one aunt wrote. "She carried you all." Noreen tried to delete her posts, but the damage was done. Family friends unfollowed her, and her colleagues whispered about her exaggerations. She was left scrambling to save face, but no one bought her excuses. Dad and Mom faced their own reckoning. Without the store's income, their debts racked up from years of poor decisions swallowed them whole. They'd taken out a second mortgage to keep up appearances, counting on my help to cover the gaps. Now, with no money coming in, they missed payments. The bank seized their house, a modest 3-bedroom they'd lived in for decades. They moved into a cramped apartment, their belongings stuffed into storage. Relatives who'd once cheered their every word turned cold when the truth spread. An uncle called Dad out at a family barbecue, saying, "You pushed her away." And for what, Mom tried to play the victim, claiming I'd abandoned them, but the evidence was clear. My bank statements, my emails offering advice they'd ignored, it all came out. Cousins stopped inviting them to gatherings, and their calls went unanswered. Grandpa stayed firm. He'd heard about the store's collapse from a friend in Chicago, but he didn't reach out to Dad, Mom, or Noreen. I got a letter from him, handwritten, confirming the new will. "It's done," he wrote. "The land and properties are yours, with some for charity. They won't get a cent." He'd cut them off completely, his signature on the document final. I didn't feel triumph, just a quiet relief. His decision wasn't about punishing them. It was about fairness, something they'd never given me. When Mom called him begging for a meeting, he refused. "You made your bed," he told her over the phone, then hung up. Noreen tried texting him, but he blocked her number. Dad didn't even bother reaching out, too proud or too ashamed. I stayed out of it, focusing on my own life. My job as a financial manager was thriving. I'd landed a big client, a tech startup that trusted my instincts. I didn't check on the store or answer the occasional text from mom still laced with guilt trips. Their downfall wasn't my fault. They had built their lives on lies, leaning on me while lifting Noreen up. Now they were reaping the consequences. The family's whispers reached me how dad was working odd jobs, how mom was selling jewelry to make rent, how Noreen's latest job interview had fallen through. I didn't gloat. I just kept moving forward knowing I'd done what I had to do. Their collapse wasn't just financial, it was personal. The relatives who'd laughed at Noreen's posts now saw her for what she was, a bully who'd smeared me to save her own image. The ones who'd praised mom and dad at the anniversary dinner now avoided them, embarrassed by the truth. The family store, once a point of pride, was a boarded-up reminder of their failure. And Grandpa's will locked in with his lawyer was a final line they couldn't cross. I didn't need to say a word. Their actions had spoken loud enough. While their lives unraveled, mine took shape. I threw myself into my work, pouring every ounce of energy into my career as a financial manager. The tech startup I'd signed in Chicago turned into my biggest win yet. After months of late nights and sharp negotiations, I closed a multi-million-dollar contract to manage their finances, streamlining their budget and saving them from a risky expansion. My boss called me into her office, a rare smile on her face. "You're going places," she said, hinting at a promotion to senior manager. The raise that came with it wasn't just money. It was proof I didn't need my family's approval to succeed. I was building something real, something mine. Outside of work, I carved out a new life, one that didn't revolve around their drama. Kathleen became my rock, always there with a quick text or a coffee date to keep me grounded. We'd meet up at our favorite diner, splitting pancakes and laughing about her latest marketing campaign or my awkward client meetings. Her support wasn't loud or flashy. It was steady, the kind that made me feel I wasn't alone. Then there was my boyfriend, Brian, a structural engineer I'd met at a networking event. He was different from anyone I'd dated, quietly confident with a dry sense of humor that caught me off guard. Our first date was at a small jazz club where he admitted he'd only come to the event to avoid another night of grading blueprints. By our third date, we were planning weekend hikes, talking about everything from bridge designs to my dreams of starting my own consulting firm. Brian didn't know the full story of my family at first, but I opened up over time. I told him about the anniversary dinner, the years of being pushed aside the way Noreen's lies spread online. He listened, his hand steady on mine, and didn't try to fix it with empty advice. "You're stronger than they'll ever know," he said once, his voice low but cert. It wasn't just words. It was the kind of belief I'd never gotten from Dad, Mom, or Naren. With Kathleen and Brian, I built a circle that felt like home, not a battlefield. I didn't reach out to my parents or Noreen, and they didn't try to contact me either. A cousin mentioned they were struggling. Dad picking up shifts at a warehouse. Mom selling crafts online. Noreen bouncing between retail jobs. I didn't feel sorry for them. They'd had years to treat me like family, to value what I brought to the table. But they chose to lift Noreen up and tear me down. Their silence now was just another choice. One I was done letting hurt me. Grandpa sent me a postcard from Florida, a short note saying he was proud of me. It was enough. I didn't need their apologies or their excuses. I needed people who saw me for who I was. The lesson hit me hard, but it was clear. Cherish the people who truly love you, not the ones who use you. For years, I'd chased my family's respect, thinking if I gave enough money, time, effort, they'd see my worth. But they didn't. They took and they gave nothing back. Kathleen, Brian, Grandpa, they were the ones who mattered, the ones who showed up without strings attached. That truth changed how I moved through the world. I stopped seeking validation from people who'd never give it and started investing in those who did. My life wasn't perfect. Work was demanding, and some days I doubted myself, wondering if I'd pushed my family away too harshly. But then I'd remember Dad's toast, Noreen's smirk, Mom's silence. I'd remember the years of being invisible, the lies they spread to protect their own image. I wasn't the villain in their story. I was the one who'd walked away to save myself, and I was better for it. My apartment, once a place of late-night stress, became a haven filled with Brian's laughter and Kathleen's bad puns. My career, once a way to prove myself, became a source of pride, a testament to what I could do when I stopped carrying their weight. Thanks for listening to my story. What would you do if your family treated you this way? Drop it in the comments and subscribe for